One of the seven deadly sins, one that is easy to fall victim to if not checked. From Vegeta to Escanor, there are many instances in anime where pride gets displayed in a particular light. And today, with my dear co-host Raven, how you doing today, sir?
What's up? What's up?
We'll be getting into those different takes on pride, and we'll be adding some of our own personal thoughts and opinions about it as well. So stay tuned for that. And before we get started, first of all, just to kind of get our feet wet, is there something you hold pride in a lot recently? Just something in particular, either work related, hobbies, relationships, some, I don't know, milestones you've achieved that you feel particularly proud of?
I mean, just in general, like getting more hobbies nowadays in this stage of my life is something I'm proud of. I used to just focus on like one or two things or one thing at a time.
Mhm.
Really, I wouldn't really dabble into much. But I think recently I've been trying a lot of new things, things that I normally like would try or wouldn't think about doing. I'm just
Mhm.
doing them, so I'm definitely proud of that. Like having a more adventurous approach to this stage of my life.
Okay, no, that's good. That's good. I was also wondering if there's something that you were proud of um that would border on toxicity damn near because you're so proud of it. I'll give you an example. For me personally, right? There's something that I hold a lot of pride in, and that's my sense of rhythm. You give me almost any song or any melody, I will find you at least one or two different rhythms that like a lot of people don't necessarily hear because something that people don't understand, right? And I'm just gonna go off on this quick tangent before we get into the topic of today. Something that people don't understand about rhythm is that it's not something you hear, it's something you feel. Some people they try to look for the rhythm in the music and they can't find it. Like, I don't know, I just can't hear it. It's like, yes, that's your first mistake. You're trying to hear something you're not supposed to hear. You're supposed to feel it, right? Now, I had a conversation recently with somebody where we were just kind of hanging out, and there was like a live band performing outside. They were playing some music, and I told them, I was like, "Listen, you see this?" And it was like some like French style of music, which usually it's really hard to find a rhythm in that because of the nature of the instruments that they use. So I was like, "Okay, check this out. I bet you that I can pick up what the rhythm of this melody is right now. You probably can pick up on it because it's not straightforward because you're trying to listen for it, but you got to feel it, right?" So what I did was I waited like, I don't know, 2, 3 seconds to kind of get a good feel for what I thought the rhythm was, and then I started snapping to it. So snapping to the rhythm and showing them this is the rhythm.
Yeah.
Do you know what they did?
What?
They had the audacity to argue with me and tell me that um, I was wrong. Mind you, coming from someone who can't even dance, admittedly, right? So I was like, you have got to be kidding me. And you know what the amazing plot twist that happened was?
What?
Literally within seconds, that group, they overheard my snap and they started matching the beat to let people know, yeah, this is actually what we're doing. And the person I was with freaked out. I was like, oh no way. They're actually doing the thing. And I look back and I'm like, don't question me. I know my stuff when it comes to rhythm. I was born with it. I used to be that kid back in the day when I would go to parties, family parties, to get together. I'll be the one to move people aside on the dance floor and step on there and do my thing because I feel this stuff. I was born with it. I don't know what to tell you. And after that, um, that you know, that moment, I realized that's something I have a lot of pride in. I was never fully aware of it, but I was like, the way I took that so personally, Yeah, it's something where I pride myself on having a great sense of rhythm, and having that challenge just brings some weird animosity out of me. So that's kind of what I was wondering, if you had something like that, that you know your stuff so well that you take a lot of pride in it, and if you get challenged, it's like, I are you seriously doing this right now? I could say one for you, but I'll see if you can find it yourself first.
Yeah, I mean, I have like stuff that I'm proficient in that I take a lot of pride in, like boxing, music, stuff like
Yeah, I
that.
was waiting for you to say that. That's the one.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I know you. You know, nobody can teach you nothing about that. It's like, hey, you better
Yeah,
get it right.
literally, literally. I am definitely. I'd say boxing is what I know most of, and I literally think I'm like one of the most knowledgeable people in terms of actual like hand to hand boxing combat. I don't think there's many people in this world that I can learn from, and that is just like that sounds very prideful to a lot of people, but that's just the way that that's just the facts, man. It's just the facts are what they are. Like
Exactly, right? So what do you think that stems from?
that stems from pride. Definitely stems from pride.
No, 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 I mean, like that pride that you have, right? Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what was the source of it? What created that, you think?
Well, I mean, in the terms of boxing sense, like it just stems from reality, man. It just stems from what I know
Mhm.
and like all the work that you put in, all the kind of like years of not knowing anything, and then you finally like learn a lot from really knowledgeable people, some of the best in the world that I had a privilege of meeting and
Mhm.
learning from. It's from that, from when you go to having like you go from the lowest bar to the highest bar, you go from having no standards to the top standard, that you kind of look back, and if somebody from that's at that low bar is trying to tell you how things are, it's just like, you know I mean, you're just not going to have it because you've already been there, done that.
You
You
spend the time and effort and dedication to learn about it, to develop the skills or the knowledge. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's almost insulting when somebody challenges you, when you know what you had to go through to get to that point, right? And that's to me, that's the most, I want to say, the most acceptable and understandable kind of pride, because it comes from a real place of, trials and tribulation, and you putting in time and effort and working towards that. All right. But let me ask you this. You ever been inherently proud in something or someone where there wasn't a specific reason for why you would feel that way, but you just do? Like,
Like in a person in particular, you mean?
yeah, yeah, like in a person or in something like external to you.
Oh, let's see. I definitely feel proud of some like mangaka, like people that like artists that I see that are on the come up. If I see they're not getting enough recognition, and then I see that they do get their well-deserved recognition, like for example, Kubo.
Mm,
Kubo for years, people were just crapping on him, saying, "Oh yeah, he just sucks. He's one of the worst authors in Shonen Jump. Just get him out of there. Just end his series already. His series sucks." And then years after his series ends, oh well, Bleach was never anything. It's not. It's a waste of time. It's awful. The fights suck. It's all about fights. And for years, I would tell people, no, Bleach is great. Bleach is actually one of the most thematically heavy shonen in the game. It's actually on par with Hunter x Hunter, with Naruto, with One Piece. And if you disagree, you're actually objectively wrong. And so now people are starting to see that this is the case with Thousand Year Blood War arc anime. I don't know why. There's not that much that's different. It's just that it's animated now and there's a couple of extra scenes. But now everybody's changing their tune, and it does make me feel proud in a sense for Kubo in his stead. I know in boxing this happened when Usyk was about to fight Anthony Joshua, moving up from cruiserweight to heavyweight to fight the unified world champion, who, by the way, he had more belts than Tyson Fury, so he was the definitive heavyweight champion, the lineal. Um, and everybody's saying, "Well, Usyk's so small. He's tiny. He's a little shrimp. He's gonna get pounded out like a bag of scallops. I mean, what a loser." They said he was gonna get knocked out. They said Anthony Joshua was gonna kill him. And look at what happens when he gets in the ring with Anthony Joshua. He absolutely outclasses him. He makes him look like a fool, and he almost actually knocks Anthony Joshua out in the 12th round. Absolutely obliterates him. Same thing happened with Bevo versus Canelo. I said for years Bevo was going to destroy Canelo. He was going to obliterate him. People went against me, said no, that can never happen. Bevo's a nobody. Who has he fought? This and that. Blah 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 blah. Look at what happened when it got in the ring with Bevo. I mean, Canelo got in the ring with Bevo. He didn't win a single round. So these are all instances that I felt very proud in the stead of somebody else.
Yeah, yeah, I can totally see that because it's been happening with me too in tennis where I notice a trend with a particular player that is doing really well. And I have to say, man, I should know this by now, but I feel like every once in a while I get a reminder. But the comment section on videos on any platform, the YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, whatever, they can get so toxic. So I would say something, right? I would make a prediction about a player saying, "Oh, the way that they're going right now, I feel like they could take the whole thing or they could go really far." And then you have somebody respond to me in a comment section, basically clowning me, saying that I don't know what I'm talking about and that I'm completely wrong. So you can imagine the feeling I get. It's like a proud father when I see the player that I was vouching for go far and deliver on my expectations and sometimes even exceeding them. I just sit there thinking to myself, yeah, yeah, that feels good. That feels good. To the point that I almost want to go back to the previous comment and gloat. Like, so what were you saying? What
Yeah.
was all that noise? Yeah, that's why. Kill that noise. Kill that. Because my guy just, he made it happen. So yeah, I get that. I get that. And it's interesting because, today, what we're going to be talking about, like the main angle we're approaching pride from, it's usually very personal and there's some kind of inherent um value in it for the person, for the character in question.
Yeah.
Um, I give you like an example. Light Yagami, right?
Hmm.
Like ridiculous amounts of pride, right? He's very proud in his mind, in his intelligence, and in his moral compass that he believes to be correct, right? And he does not want to be challenged. So he holds a lot of pride in that, in his intelligence. And that's something that you always have to keep in mind is make sure to stay on the right side of the divide between pride and arrogance, right? Because if you have a lot of pride in something, but you don't necessarily have the goods to back it up, that becomes arrogance. And at that point, nobody can take you seriously. But with Light, he was extremely prideful, but I gotta give it to him because he was amazing at what to this day, and it's so stupid because I'm like, he had so many other displays of his quick thinking, wit, and cleverness. But this one instant to me will always cement how much of a genius he is. When he was still killing people while being recorded. Do you remember the whole chip bag?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Because he's
remember that. I remember that.
ambidextrous. Oh my goodness. I was like, okay, you know what? You are smart. You are extremely smart, and I gotta give it to you. I gotta give it to you. But I mean, we wouldn't do this topic justice if we didn't talk about the poster child for pride in anime, right? Our
Who
favorite
is that?
Saiyan. Our favorite Saiyan.
Oh, Vegeta.
Yeah, the prince of all
Yeah.
Saiyans, right? He'll never miss an opportunity to let you know. It's like never forget, I am the prince of all Saiyans. So I wanted to get your opinion on this because it's something that I've been thinking about for a while. Because growing up, I used to prefer Goku, right, to Vegeta during Dragon Ball Z. I always used to think that Goku was the more entertaining character. I mean, he was the MC too, so it's like. You kind of by default have to like him, right?
Yeah, for
But
sure.
as I got older, I realized that the better, I almost want to say objectively, the better written character of the two is Vegeta. When you see his journey from where he started to what he became at the end of DBZ, it's an amazing journey, and it's a realistic progression of his character. I feel like he has one of the best written redemption character redemption arcs in all of fiction. There aren't too many people I put above him. Maybe Zuko. Not maybe, definitely, probably definitely Zuko. Zuko is this different beast when it comes to that. But that's besides the point. This man Vegeta, he's always talking about, oh, I carry the pride of all the Saiyans with me and things of that nature. So I've always been curious, and I wanted to know if you maybe had an idea about this, but where does that pride come from?
That
Like,
pride comes from who he is, because the thing is, at the end of the day, Vegeta, he who he is as a person, he's a warrior, right?
yes.
And so warrior Saiyan pride, I'd even argue that all of these things are interchangeable. You could use these words to describe what a Saiyan is, and basically who he is, right? So in order to be a Saiyan, he needs strength. In order to be a warrior, he needs strength. In order to have pride, he needs strength, right? And in order to continue being all of these things, he's going to need to be stronger and stronger and stronger. And that's basically what keeps him going. So for Vegeta, pride is basically what like motivates him to press forward in life. But not only just like that, like just not only just as a motivation, but like pride is what makes him him, you know?
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
for him, being a Saiyan is something that you need to be proud of. I think there was even a scene where he was talking to Trunks or some shit where he was like, yo, like, never forget your Saiyan pride, because that's who you are. That is everything that you're supposed to be. And if you lose that pride, you're gonna lose yourself. Now, of course, I'm paraphrasing, but he basically says something like that. I know there's a quote where he basically says like, "You can take my soul, you can take my body, you can take control of my mind, but there's one thing a Saiyan always keeps. It's his pride. So his pride is literally what he is. Where even if you were to take every aspect of him. You were to put him in a wheelchair like he's Guy Sensei. As long as he has his pride, he's still a Saiyan and he's still Vegeta. He's still him.
That makes sense. I can see that. Because I like it's something that was so like Toriyama did a really good job of uh characterizing him as a prideful warrior to the point where it just you don't question it. It doesn't come off as weird or forced. It's just natural. You think, yes, that's normal. This how he's always been. And I was just thinking about it because his type of pride reminded me of uh like people that are very patriotic
Yeah,
and they have a lot of pride in their country. So his pride of the same race reminded me of that. And I thought to myself, how does one come to become proud of their country? Like, is it something that you're born with? Is it something that you're taught and you assimilate over time? Because as
it's
something
some.
that, yeah, go ahead.
I think it's something you have to identify with, because the
Yeah.
thing is, it had to be your identity. So like for him, I think he said once like, "You say I'm arrogant, I say damn right." That's pride. Pride in the Saiyan I am. So the pride literally stems from him being a Saiyan. So if he was not a Saiyan, if he wasn't who he was, if he didn't have his self, he wouldn't have the pride. So with the Patriots, it's the same thing. They find themselves, or they identify themselves, they mold themselves based on their country, right? And so the victory for their country is a victory for themselves. And that's where the pride comes from, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I can see that. It's so funny because there are times when your pride can conflict with you can have a conflict of interest
Yeah.
revolving around pride. Did you watch Invincible?
Oh, what remind me of like what it was?
So it's the story with this kid who his dad is Omni-Man and his dad is from this other planet, kind of like the Saiyans, really. And they always do this thing where they take over planets or destroy them and things of that nature. But basically, the end of the first season was Omni-Man teaching his son that his purpose is to take over Earth at some
Yeah,
point and help with the expansion of Omni-Man's race. And of course, his son, he's half human, so he's not in line with that. He doesn't agree with it. He's like, no, that this not we can't do this, right? Because that's just not the right way to go. But something that he doesn't realize is that being half of Omni-Man's race, he's going to live out a really, really long time. So all the bonds that he creates are eventually going to fade away because he's going to outlive everybody. And it's a very poignant story, but basically you see Omni-Man, he has to balance out the bond that he's created with his son, with his wife, and the life that he's made for himself on Earth versus the pride that he holds for his people, for his race and their expansion, right? And it's
yeah.
a very interesting kind of exploration of pride in that particular aspect. So if you're ever, it's not something that is pressing, but if you ever
Wait,
have
is
the
it a
opportunity
show?
to, yeah, it's a show.
Oh, I'm
It
not
was
gonna
on
watch it.
Amazon Prime or something.
I'm not gonna
But
watch it. I'm sorry. I don't do
uh
shows, but I will definitely. It sounds interesting. I'll definitely check out like a maybe a synopsis or something or some clips. But
yeah.
shows, shows are my thing. I'll get,
Ye I know,
you know,
yeah. It's
I
it's
get
it's
frustrated quick.
well, it's not like a live show though. It's like anime almost, but just
Oh, okay, okay.
doing the same. Yeah, but yeah. Yeah, so Vegeta, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He I've always found his kind of pride to be very like it went from being something really toxic to something very beneficial, if you will. I noticed that when he sacrificed himself for the earth against Boo, where he was able to like he used his pride to his advantage because it shifted from just the Saiyans to his family and even Goku at that point, right? Like those things started mattering to him a bit more than just the pride. And I think that was kind of a nice balance to have there, kind of showing you can you can have pride, you can be a prideful individual, but it doesn't have to overtake other aspects of your life, which might be arguably more important, right? And
Yeah,
I think that's the pitfall for a lot of people when they start to let their pride get the better of them, where it becomes everything and they hold themselves to a such a high pedestal that they look at everybody beneath them as inferior, right?
yeah,
You know, and I would say in real life, that's definitely not the way you want to go, right? That's only going to uh, result in conflict and friction with other people around you because I don't know if you ever dealt with people that exude their pride. It gets annoying very quickly. Like you try to have a conversation with them and they'll always try to have the upper hand for
yeah,
whatever
yeah.
reason, you know? Like those interactions, they get so exhausting. I'm like, oh my goodness. But if you're talking in the fictional world, remember how last time when we were talking about um, how satisfying it felt to see Gon go berserk.
Yeah, for sure.
I've only had one instance in anime where I felt an immeasurable amount of satisfaction from watching a character exude insane amounts of pride. And I think you probably know who I'm talking about.
Who?
Escanor.
Oh yeah, yeah, Escanor.
Oh my goodness. Some of the lines that he said have become part of my, like it's like you ever have those characters who inspire you on a level where you adopt certain aspects of their personality in your life to yourself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's happened with me and Escanor, because I was like, he makes being prideful look so good. Like I want to be like that. Like I want to be that way because it's just so overwhelming and it's undisputed. You just have to acknowledge and bow before it. That's all it is. And it's not, for a lot of people, they see it and they think it's arrogant, but no, he delivers the goods. So it's not arrogant. It's just, he has every right to feel the way that he does. And he has this one line when he's facing certain opponents and they tell him about what he can or cannot do based on the conditions that they've set or the commandments. And he has this one line says, "Who decided that?" Because he thinks he's the one. He thinks he's above it all. So it's like, unless I say so, it ain't so, right?
Yeah,
And it's just, I don't remember the last time I saw somebody carry themselves through the world with so much pride, and it just works every single time. There isn't a single point where I feel like, okay, this is a little bit too much. They need to tone it down. Like, no, please, I want more. I want more because you're good at it. You really pride and you make it look good. So by all means, please continue. Right.
yeah.
So
He even
it's
says
something I
like
really appreciate.
he even says like apologize to me that you were born into my world. I don't remember who he says that to,
I mean,
but
just
that's
look
the
at
thing.
that characterization is amazing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I think like it goes into what it means to have pride because we grew up kind of watching anime, right? Like, I know I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z, One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, on Toonami and Adult Swim, Cartoon Network. Um, and you see characters like Vegeta, you see characters like Sasuke, all characters that have a lot of pride. They carry themselves with kind of like a what some would consider a smug arrogance. And when you're developing as a young person, as a young adult, these things can shape the way that you carry yourself. So the way that you see Vegeta carrying himself, you can start to carry yourself that way too. And of course we get cringe moments where kids are doing the Naruto run in middle school.
Oh God,
But
not the Naruto run.
yeah, but in other instances it can be healthier, right? Like there's a lot of people that might have low self-esteem, and you might see a character like that and it might inspire you to kind of harness some of that energy into your own life. And that's one of the benefits of having these prideful characters. I don't know if you look at it the same way, as if like these prideful characters that we see in media, in anime in particular, like can help shape who we are, help kind of motivate us, inspire us.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Because especially when the characterization is so strong, like with Vegeta or Escanor, it's really hard not to not to adopt that, because it's an ideal that you can aspire to. Of course, you have to take it with a grain of salt because, as you know, everything in anime gets dialed up and gets exaggerated, right? Like basic emotions get like exponentially increased. So you have to know how to like how to get your inspiration from those. But um I don't know. I'm trying to think. Is there anybody else that I can think of that I was really like, this character, they show a lot of pride in what they do, but it's in a way that doesn't get under people's skin, right?
Yeah.
I mean, my boy in One Piece, my favorite character, Sanji. He's a cook, right? And every time that gets highlighted, he always says with confidence, "Yeah, I'm the best at what I do." And he will show you how he's the best at what he does. Like remember in the whole cake, there's this little moment which in hindsight I wish was emphasized a little bit more because I feel like it's easily forgettable in the sea of everything else that happened there. But when they're making the cake, right? This dude I don't even know if he just tried one little piece of the frosting or if it was the smell of it. But just from that alone, he was able to replicate to a T that cream. Do you remember what was happening to people that tried that cream?
Yeah, they were getting creamy.
Yeah, they went they went food wars on us.
Yeah.
So uh it's oh, that reminds me, that guy too, Soma, he's also really, really proud in what he does. But
Yeah.
see, what's interesting with him though, he does get humbled. So his pride doesn't prevent him from learning, which is something that I feel like can also be an issue sometimes. Like when you have too much pride, then it's like you miss out on opportunities to learn and to grow because you think you already have it all, right? You're already good where you're at.
Yeah.
But he gets humbled many times where, and I just love the way that the story does it sometimes too, because at first it'll make you think that he's about to get away with some uh, innovative way to cook, right? Because maybe he's lacking a skill, a specific skill set, and he makes up for it with clever thinking. But it doesn't work. And he has to learn, like, yeah, that clever thinking is all nice and good, and being able to think on your feet. However, that can only get you so far. You need those skills. So you're gonna need to learn that. And it's just so cool to see how somebody can have a lot of pride, but still, be well balanced enough to realize, okay, you know what? Maybe I do need to be humble here and kind of learn in this
Yeah.
particular instance.
And I think it's important to note that like a lot of like examples where we're bringing up, they're very like almost positive, indulgent forms of pride, but there's that honestly isn't the case across like depictions and like conversations about pride across the board. Like people usually when they talk about pride, it's something very negative, you know? Even in the Bible, it's said like pride is the first sin, right? That's why Lucifer became Satan. That's why he got kicked out of heaven, basically, cast down because
Wasn't it
he
due to music?
no, it was due to his pride. He thought he was literally more beautiful than God. He thought it was the most beautiful creature
So
in existence.
I've heard different spins of this. The one that I heard the most recently that was popular was that um Lucifer, he was actually one of God's angels, right?
That's who he was, but there's
And
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And he played music so beautiful that God himself descended to come listen to it. And he grew pride from that because he thought to himself, if I can create music that's going to bring God himself down here, why can't I be up there with him? And that's where he got sent down. So that's the version that I heard. But I'm not sure like the full origin story for that. But it was centered around pride.
Yeah, yeah, it is. So pride is the first sin, like that. That's like what it is. So basically, the quote is like the Bible quote is, "How you are fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning! How you are cut down to the ground, you who weaken the nations! For you have said in your heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will also sit on the mounts of the congregation on the farthest sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet you shall be brought down to Sheol, to the lowest depths of the pit. So the first sin is pride. Like, it doesn't matter like how he got to the pride was music. He could have been like banging pans. He could have been flipping pancakes. The issue was that he literally saw God and he was like, "Listen, I'm better than you, and I'm on the come up. So watch out." And I mean, it's like that chart said, you F around and you find out. And he got kicked out. And
He
so
found that real quick.
like in our like cultures, Bible, all of these religions, even in media, books, people consider pride a bad thing, right? And so it kind of calls into question like what it does truly mean to have pride, because of course we're talking about it as if it's almost a positive thing, right, Teddy?
Mm.
So where is that disconnect, you think, with this kind of negative connotation about pride, like among just the general population, the majority of people, and what we're kind of describing pride as something that can benefit you, motivate you, and things like that?
I think the difference is in the context, right? It's like you can have pride, but you cannot have it beyond your beyond your limitations. So here's what I mean by that. It's
Yeah.
like in the example with Lucifer, right? He punched way above his weight class. He was way out of his league, thinking that he could ascend to be on God's throne, right? And that's why he got shunned. And with pride in our world, I feel one of the reasons why it will come across uh, as negative, right, is because in many cases it's people who are pride above their abilities or above their actual worth, right? When you see some people, they carry themselves with a lot of pride, and you ask yourself, but where does that come from? Like, why do you have so much pride? Because from what I'm seeing from you, it doesn't seem like you should be doing that. You know, the whole saying, you don't have the facilities. You don't.
You're not that
There's
guy.
you're not that guy. You're not him. Okay, so why are you carrying yourself like you are? Right, and that's why a lot of times it's either that or it's jealousy, meaning that you see somebody who has rightful pride. You know, like for example, with you and your knowledge of boxing, if you end up in a conversation with somebody who doesn't know as much and you're just spitting facts in their face, like every time that they're saying something, you have a comeback like, nah, this is why you're wrong and that, right? They're going to feel some type of way, but it's because they wish they were as knowledgeable and could be on the same playing field, but they're not. And the fact that they're not is the impetus for those feelings, where in that situation, pride itself isn't the issue, is how other people are receiving it that's making it an issue, if you will.
Yeah.
It's like you are right to be proud. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just that other people, through their interactions with you, they have a negative experience from it, and they get mad, they get upset, and that's where pride gets looked at in a negative light. Where it's like there's no reason to. It's just that's a personal issue at that point, you know.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even with the boxing thing for me, like I know I'm prideful about like, what I know and everything and how I feel about it, but like with when it comes to talking to people about boxing, like I'm pretty just humble, down to earth. Like I just talk to them like just casually. Like there's no need to just like, oh, look at me, look at all I know. I just I'll approach any conversation because I teach people boxing, so I coach a lot of people. when a person comes into like a class, it's not from I'm not going to be looking down on them. I'm just they're here to learn. They're here to start from scratch. If I'm having a conversation with boxing and somebody tells me, "Hey, man, I think the greatest boxer of all time is got Amir Khan or something," right? I'm not. My response is not going to be, "No, you're wrong. It's Sam Langford. Look at all these champions he's beat. Look at all this, the here and there and the other." I'm not going to do that. There's no reason for that. I'm just going to be like, "Hey, man, that's great. Yeah, Amir Khan is great, man. Good for you." Like, because I'm just happy that other people are interested in the same sport that I'm in. So, although I do have pride in what I know, at the end of the day, like, kindness, humility, and all that, like, takes a precedence over that pride. And I'll only really kind of open that pride up or show that pride up if a person gets to a certain level in the class or something like that, right? So where they really need to improve, they've gotten kind of past the beginner phase, and they really want to improve their skill. You kind of have to get tough on them, where
Yeah,
you're like, listen, this is the point where you got to kind of realize that you know nothing at all, and in order for you to improve, because of course, like, I filtered out already that this is what they want to improve, they want to get on this level, you're going to have to throw away everything you think you know to get onto this level. And there's countless of people who've done that before. Remember Bruce Lee? He was very prideful coming up. He knew like three martial arts. He was so prideful. He came to America, he was thinking he was going to beat the crap out of everybody. He goes to college, some girl slaps his girl on the booty cheeks, says, "Hey baby, come over here," and he starts fighting the dude, and the dude literally kicks him in the ass and nearly breaks his back. And Bruce Lee has to basically realize that his martial arts, his years of training were all for nothing, and he actually knows nothing at all. And he has to form his own martial arts and start from scratch, and that's how he became who he was. And I think there's value in a fall coming after the pride. There's value in humility going hand in hand with pride. And no matter how prideful or boastful you get, remember that you can always be cut down to size. There's always somebody like that knows more than you or that's better than you, and there's always room for improvement. So
exactly. Like you can be proud, but it's that's why I said at the beginning, it's one of those scenes that is really easy. It can come from a good place, but really easy to fall into that pitfall of being clouded
yeah,
by your pride, where you're missing out on opportunities to learn and be better. Did you know? Quick tangent. Did you know they're doing a an anime dedicated to Bruce Lee?
yeah, I didn't even know.
Oh yeah,
I didn't know.
I saw something about it on social media recently. I was like, ooh, if they do it right, it's going to, because he's such an iconic figure in entertainment.
Yeah,
Everybody loves him. So
yeah,
that,
everybody loves him. I think he's a great example of like healthy pride, like where, or even just pride in general, right? Like, because he was very arrogant. A lot of people, when you hear accounts of him, even in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, they kind of depicted him as being a little bit arrogant and full of himself, as a young kind of stuntman coming to America. He's a big star at this point, and he comes to America. He thinks he's the best, and he kind of gets exposed to the fact that he may not be the best, and this actually pushes him to learn more. And this is actually something that's like prominent in philosophy too. Like Friedrich Nietzsche, he wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra. He wrote, "So I ask my pride that it always go along with my wisdom, and when my wisdom leaves me, one day, alas, as it sure does love to fly away, let my pride then fly away with it." So basically, Nietzsche's saying, like, listen, if my pride leaves me one day, or if my wisdom leaves me one day, I need my pride to go with it. It can't be one or the other. They both have to go. Because the thing is, pride without wisdom is basically like it's like vanity. It's just like a toxin to like the human soul, right? And even in Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen says vanity and pride are different things. Though the words are often used synonymously, a person may be proud without being vain. Pride relates more to our opinion of ourselves. Vanity to what would have others think of us. And these are things I definitely agree with, that like in order to have like healthy pride, you need some type of wisdom, humility about you. You need discipline and composure. You can't just be out here, laughing with your hands in the air like you're Buggy, thinking you're the king of the East Blue, king of the Grand Line, when really all you are is just a little scallop in the sea.
The frog in the well. Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. But and that's why I struggle with those types of pride, like the one, the type that Vegeta shows,
Yeah,
or the type where people have just inherent pride in their country, where they're very patriotic. Because I agree that I feel like with pride, it needs to stem from a concrete place of wisdom and like experiences that you've gone through that have cemented that pride in you, because like you have a track record to show for it.
yeah,
With the other kind of pride, the kind of Vegeta has in all sayings, and with patriotism and all that, that's the kind that I struggle with personally to understand, because I feel like it doesn't stem from that. It just stems from this almost adoration for an idea or an entity, and you uphold that to 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 a certain level, and you
yeah.
hold pride in that.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is weird. I don't
It's
know
weird.
about you, I don't know about the people. I've never felt strong like patriotism, for example, because I just like I don't understand it, right? And it would be interesting to have somebody on at some point who gets that, so that he can explain it to us, because it's a feeling that is very foreign to me, because I agree that with pride it needs to come from a place of wisdom for it to be
Yeah.
respected.
I feel the same way as you said it. Like I grew up at some point I was growing up and I had a stepmother who was Colombian, right?
Mhm.
And I was exposed to this at a very young age. Um, I had never been around a culture that was really patriotic, really prideful in their country. And this family was extremely proud of Colombia. Like any second they got to talk about Colombia, they would. If you would show that picture that you have right now on screen, Teddy, of like the bread, the croissants, the pastries, they
Yeah.
would be like, oh yeah, well, pastries were invested in France, but like, Colombians are much better at it.
They'll find a way to tie it back to them, because they just hold so much pride in their culture.
Exactly. They're like, yo, well, we make it better. That's basically like what we got in Colombia. If they lose the World Cup, they still find some way to make an excuse for it or something. I
Our
remember
players were injured. They weren't fed well.
the
Okay.
final nail in the coffin for me was when I forgot which Miss Universe it was, but there was a Miss Universe where Miss Columbia quote unquote won, and that's when Steve Harvey had to come up and be like, "Wait, actually she didn't win. It was actually Miss Philippines who won."
I
And and Miss Columbia
remember
was
that.
pissed. Even the Miss Columbia, like she took it with grace, but then afterwards she pulled it back and she was like, "Well, I actually should have won." And then a lot of Colombians came to her aid. They were like, "Yeah, you're much hotter than her. Like, screw the Philippines." And that's when I saw like the toxicity of patriotism, and I really just started to hate it. And I started to argue with my stepmom. I'm like, "Yo, like, you why are you going so hard for Colombia so much so that you're trying to put other people down, man? Like, your country's not even that great, this and that." And we got into so many arguments. Of course, I was young, said a lot of things I shouldn't have said. Um, but I've started to realize now as we're talking too, like that this pride and patriotism can kind of develop as an evolutionary thing, right? So like think about it this way, right? Let's say you're a Colombian, Teddy, and you're proud of Colombia, you're proud of like the pastries, right? And let's say you make pastries, just like you have on your screen right there, right? You're a baker, you're a simple baker in Colombia. And so you make traditional Colombian pastries. So once you open up your bakery in the heart of like Bogota, Colombia, you start seeing success. You start seeing people from all over the world coming to try these Colombian pastries. And you start to feel a sense of pride from that, right? the community is like backing you up. The community applauds you, right?
Yeah.
And this pride acts as a motivation to contribute more to society by making more pastries, opening more of these bakeries, maybe even branching out, bringing these tasty Colombian treats, which they are tasty. Colombia has some delicious food. It's a beautiful country, beautiful people. Taking this Colombian culture around the world, intermingling, mixing cultures, melting pot. All of this stuff is very positive, and it all kind of stems from this pride that you have in making these Colombian pastries. So although I do see it as like, especially when I was younger, I did see it like as a negative thing, and I'm like, yo, like why are you going so hard for this country, you know? But at the end of the day, I do see where this can stem from. I don't know if you see it that way, where I'm kind of starting to develop that kind of viewpoint on it.
I can kind of see it. I can kind of see it. Yeah, because I guess it comes from like loving your country, right? Or loving something to the point where it's like you hold a lot of pride in it based on your feelings towards it, right? And I guess I can see it. I kind of get that too because I have, I have some traditional foods that we have back home that I do have a lot of pride in. Like anytime I talk about them, because I feel like they're delicious. But you see, even with that, right?
Yeah,
There's still something to that. It's because of my experience with the foods and all of that that I developed that pride, right? So I think maybe that's what it is. That I
it's
think
tough.
about it.
It's tough.
Yeah, like
It's
I
like
like the wheels are turning. The wheels are turning because I'm thinking maybe it's not that it doesn't it just comes from somewhere random. More so it's their experiences with different aspect of the culture has created that. You know, even with Vegeta, I feel like a lot of what makes him so proud is also his father, because his father was the king of the Saiyans, right? He was King Vegeta, and so he probably instilled a lot of that in Vegeta when he was young, and he grew up with that.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there's something to it. Maybe like breaking it down, you realize, oh wait, there's actually a concrete root to it. It's not just, oh, I love my country because I was told that I should love my country. Or
yeah. It's like this, Teddy. Think about it this way. I'm gonna take you to a burger spot, and I'm gonna take you to two burger spots. One of these places is the best burgers in
I
the
thought,
world, right? One of them has
what?
the best burger. Did you? Are you cutting out? Oh shoot, Teddy's cutting out. I think. So let me keep it going. So basically, the example is this: I'm gonna take you to two burger. Oh, Teddy's back.
Oh, dude, you were gone too. Like, I don't know what happened. Like, I couldn't hear you. It was like I saw you talking, but it was,
Yeah,
yeah, but anyway, yeah, you're talking
yeah,
about burgers.
yeah. So I'm gonna take you to two burger spots, right? One of them is the best of the
Uh,
world, right? Only one of the two is the best in the world. Now, at one of these spots, the chef, he loves burgers more than anything. Like he loves burgers. He takes so much pride in making burgers. The other one, the person hates burgers. They could literally give less of a crap. Which one, by your estimation, by your guesstimation, if you had to guess, which one is the place that has the better burgers? The place where they could give literally less of a shit about burgers, or the place that takes so much pride?
happening right now.
Which one? Oh, Teddy's cutting out bad, I think. Teddy's underwater. But listen, the point is this. The point is that the place that has that takes a lot of pride in making burgers, the place where the chef loves making burgers, that's the place that is more than likely going to produce the better product, going to produce the better burger. So there is, I think, pride is kind of synonymous with or goes in tandem, goes hand in hand with uh with quality, with good, with positivity in some
Yeah,
senses.
I agree. Yeah, 100%. And I mean, I feel like it's something you're really familiar with when you work in the food industry. Like you see that a lot, where people just like because you've been tested, right? And your formula has been proven to work. So when it's like that, it's understandable. And like you said, it can be another ingredient in making sure that the quality remains, right?
Yeah,
Where you just you because you have pride in what you do, you have pride in your craft, you have pride in your work, and you've been validated by other people, then it's really easy to think, you know what, I'm that guy. And every time I'm gonna make sure to prove that I'm that guy at every turn. So
yeah,
I totally see that. I totally see that.
yeah. Even Aristotle, he described pride as the crown of virtues. So like pride is something really, really, really good. Of course, the Bible has a completely opposite. So there's this kind of duality where religion looks at pride as something evil, philosophy looks at pride as something good, and media tends to look at pride as something good, as we see in anime. Typically, when you see a prideful character, it's usually something good. Sometimes it is something bad though.
Yeah,
Um,
it can be bad, but um I was gonna add this one last kind of point before we go. One genre of anime where you see that a lot is sports anime, because you remember your favorite guy from Kuroko,
ooh,
Aomine Daiki?
Almina, yeah, he's my
Yeah.
favorite.
He's the poster child of pride in that show. Like the way he comes on the court, like, listen, man, y'all bore me already. Like I'm that guy. And then he goes and shows you that he's that guy. It's like you gotta respect it. You gotta respect it. You know, he's too nice with it. He's too nasty with it. You've seen what he does, right? Like
Yeah, he's a beast. When he gets
he's
in
a
the zone,
freaking beast. Oh, it's over. It's over. Like you can't play with him. Him and I mean every single member of the generation of miracles, they were all insane. But his style in particular, maybe because he was so aggressive and so flashy, I was just in awe every time. Even
yeah,
in Haikyuu, remember was it is it Shira Torizawa? That one
oh
team
yeah,
where Hinata faced the captain and he told him I'm Hinata from the concrete, because he was talking about how everybody else was like basically not up to par. And he's like, yo, I'm a get there. It's like those moments where players show, hey, I know my stuff, and I'll show you how much I know my stuff. Like it feels very good, and it reminds you that at the end of the day, while yes, pride can be a negative, most of the time it's a positive if used well, if taken advantage of.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it can be a positive. I mean, there's even more quotes like basically it's like Cal Gibran says in Sand and Foam, generosity is giving more than you can, and pride is taking less than you need. So
Ooh.
yeah, there's a lot of kind of aspects and layers to pride, but I don't know. I think on my part that we've kind of touched pretty much a lot that like a almost a myriad of aspects to it. I don't know if you had anything else said that you kind of wanted to get to about it or on it.
No, man, I feel like we did the rounds, you know. It was a pretty comprehensive kind of breakdown of pride. So I like that. And yeah, man, the one last thought I can leave the people with is find something you can be proud of or you can have pride in. It'll definitely add to your life. I promise.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And by the way, shout out to Majais. He was in the chat. He said good
Oh,
topic. Let's show that on
Mr.
screen real
Fraud
quick.
himself.
Right
I
there.
appreciate
Let's star it up. Yeah, so
always
shout out to
appreciate the
Majais,
love.
one of our
Yeah.
friends, showing our streams some support. That's really great to see. Um, yeah, I mean, this was a great stream. It was a great topic. Thanks, Teddy. We have another topic lined up for next week. I don't even. Oh, the power of good effort or something like that. The power of effort. So that's gonna
Yep.
be interesting. And then we have more down the line, more coming up, more shorts coming out. We thank you
Yeah.
guys all for the support. It's been great. It's been a fun ride so far.
Good times.
Yeah, good times, and it's only gonna get better. But for now, we will leave you guys at that. Peace.
Peace.